Hey everyone! Welcome to the first practical lecture of this course, where we'll prepare our working environment. In the upcoming 3 lectures, we will create a new Anaconda environment, use it to install the required libraries, integrate this environment into Jupyter Notebook as a new kernel, learn how to obtain an OpenAI API key from the OpenAI website, and finally, configure this API key as an environment variable. Creating new environments for your projects is a highly recommended practice. This way you can isolate different Python and package versions, avoiding potential version clashes. Working in a different environment protects the rest of your work and ensures you can always revert to the base environment and start anew. So, with that said, let's get started. First, open your Anaconda prompt. Then create a new environment by typing conda create _name. Give your environment a descriptive name. I'll go with LangChain _env. Finally, for this line of code, specify the version of Python you want to install. Note that the current LangChain requirements include the following. In this course, I've chosen to work with Python 3.10.10. Run the code and wait for the Python installation to complete. Once done, check that the environment is created with conda env list. Sure enough, it's there. To activate it, type conda activate LangChain environment. Great! Note that the text within parentheses indicates the active environment. Let's verify that the new environment has the expected version of Python installed. Perfect! Within this new LangChain environment, let's pip install the following packages: OpenAI, python.env, IPyKernel, Jupyter Lab, and Notebook. While we wait for all these packages to be installed, let me tell you about the purpose of each. The first one allows us to make calls to OpenAI's API. With the second one, we can easily set OpenAI's API key as an environment variable. The final 3 packages are necessary for adding this LangChain environment as a kernel in Jupyter Notebook. As the course progresses, we'll add more packages to this environment. Finally, for this lesson, let's add it to the list of Jupyter Notebook kernels. Type as follows: python-m IPyKernel install _user _name, and set the name equal to the name of the environment. Once the operation is complete, open Jupyter Notebook. Check if the new kernel has appeared on the list. Indeed, it has. Great job, everyone! Setting up the working environment is one of the most challenging steps in a new programming journey. I hope it was straightforward for you and you are ready to move forward. Let me know in the Q&A if you experience any issues. Our task for the next lesson is to obtain a secret OpenAI API key. I'll see you there. Welcome back. In our previous lesson, we created a fresh Anaconda environment, installed a few necessary packages for the course, and added this environment to the list of Jupyter Notebook kernels. This lecture focuses on obtaining an OpenAI API key, allowing us to use OpenAI's API and large language models. First, visit the openai.com website. Choose API Login, and either log into your account or create one. Once done, you should be redirected to a window where you can interact with ChatGPT or use OpenAI's API to integrate their models into your projects. Of course, we opt for the second option. In the newly opened window, go to Settings, select Billing, and enter a payment method. As discussed in previous lessons, using OpenAI's models is a paid service, and you'll be charged based on your token consumption. Once you've completed that step, navigate to the menu and select API Keys. Then choose to create a new user or project secret key. Give your key a meaningful name, for example, LangChain project. Selecting Create Secret Key gives you access to your OpenAI API key. Now, be aware that you won't be able to display the API key again upon closing this window. Ensure you copy the key, paste it into a new text file, save the text file onto your computer, and only then close the window. If you lose your API key, it becomes invalid and you must generate a new one. All right, we've successfully created our API key. How do we use it? In the next lesson, we'll learn how to read the key from a text file and set it as an environment variable. See you there! Hey! In the previous lesson, we logged into OpenAI's website, generated a personal API key, and saved it locally in a text file. We'll learn how to set this API key as an environment variable, which will soon be used to communicate with the OpenAI library. First, let's delve into the concept of environment variables. An environment variable is a key value pair used by the operating system, with the key corresponding to the name of the variable, while the value representing, in our case, the OpenAI API key. The key and the value are typically stored as strings. A classic example is the path environment variable, which stores a list of directories where executable programs are located, enabling the operating system to find these programs when needed. Another typical example is the home or home path environment variable, storing the path to the user's home directory. Environment variables are essential for protecting such sensitive data as API keys. For example, the OpenAI API key, a required credential for accessing the OpenAI services, should not be exposed within the code. Hard-coding its value risks unintended exposure, such as when you share your code with friends or colleagues. This is a critical security issue because invoking OpenAI's models through the API corresponds to using tokens, a paid service. By providing your API key to others, you make it possible for them to spend the tokens you are paying for. If you notice abnormal behavior that doesn't match your token usage, revoke the API key immediately and generate a new one. Doing so makes the old API key invalid. Setting the API key as an environment variable and ensuring its confidentiality can prevent this. Moreover, storing the API key as an environment variable enables you to update it and seamlessly propagate that change across all source code files, thereby maintaining a clean code. All right, it's time we launch Jupyter and create a new Jupyter notebook, selecting the LangChain env kernel. You can see the kernel that is currently used in the top right corner. For convenience, ensure the notebook and the text file storing your key are in the same directory. In a new cell, import Python's OS module. Let's first display the available environment variables to get acquainted with them. In a new cell, type os.environ, abbreviating environment, .items, followed by a set of parentheses. I won't run this cell to avoid publicly displaying my environment variables, but you're welcome to run it, study the variables, and convince yourself that all variables are stored as key value pairs inside a dictionary. To enhance readability, create a simple for loop with two iterators, key and value, that iterate through each dictionary item. Use a print function with an f-string to neatly format the output. The output should show the key followed by a colon and its value. Again, I won't execute this cell as is, but would instead remove the braces to avoid displaying my variables. The format you should obtain includes the following. All right, let's move on to adding the OpenAI API key to the list of environment variables. One way of setting an environment variable is by typing os.environ and then, within brackets, specify the variable's name as a string. The name that the OpenAI module will expect is OpenAI _API _key, all caps. Follow this expression with an equal sign and a string storing your API key in your text file. Execute the cell. I've already added my key to the list of environment variables. Let's now check if everything was executed correctly. Go back to the for loop and add an if condition that filters out only the key storing the name OpenAI API key to make the output more readable. Execute the cell and ensure you have added the environment variable. All right. Now restart the kernel by going to the kernel menu, selecting Restart, and then confirming the operation. Wait for the kernel to display Ready. Now import the OS library and execute the for loop again. After restarting the kernel, the OpenAI API key variable disappears and must be added to the list. Since we've exposed it in the code, you've probably realized that this approach of setting your API key is not recommended. Therefore, it's time to utilize the text file we created earlier. Open the file and write the following text: OpenAI _API _key, and let this equal your API key, stored as a string. Save the file, close it, and rename it .env. Now let's use IPython's magic commands to load the environment variable stored in the text file. Use the load extension command to load an extension. The one we need is .env. Use the .env magic command to read the key value pair stored in the text file and set it as an environment variable. Recall that the name we gave to the file was precisely .env. You can add multiple key value pairs inside the file to set them as environment variables if you need to. Let's execute the cell. Well, nothing happened. How do we know these commands did the job? Import the OS module again and use the for loop we created previously. Sure enough, the OpenAI API key variable is successfully set. Perfect. Note how this second approach didn't require hard coding. Instead, the key is safely stored in the text file and read from there. If you share your source code with a friend, they can execute it on their machine with a corresponding .env file that stores their personal API key. All right, we've learned a lot in this lesson and are fully prepared to move forward to the exciting bit, creating our first chatbot with OpenAI. Can't wait to see you in the next lesson.